this was my sixth book, and it's by far my favorite, and I think my best. I really wanted to do a New York centric book. Not that it would only appeal to New York people, but it would be a bit on New York team, about a New York team. And I've just been fascinated by the whole subject of life after football, and what these guys go through, playing such a violent sport. And so the way to combine those two things was to write a book about life after football for the '86 Giants, which of the Giants' four Super Bowl teams by far is the most popular and revered in the New York area. It had Parcells and Belichick and Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms and Harry Carson, Carl Banks, Mark Navarro. You just go on and on. And but I didn't want the book to be 300 pages of depressing stories about these challenges these guys are facing or are faced with now and experiencing, the mental health challenges and financial and emotional challenges. I mean, I think story after story, just limiting it to that would be really depressing. So the way I balanced it off was talking about the brotherhood that these guys formed. And you have to remember, this is the pre-free agency days.
Yeah.
So the core of that team had been intact now, for 2-3 years when they went into the '86 season. And it didn't have the 30% roster turnover that they have now with free agency. So those guys kind of grew up together. And when they came together and they won that championship, which was their expectation that year going into training camp, it brought them even closer together. And Parcells always said, that these guys form a blood kinship when they win a championship together. So I told a story in the book, throughout the book, about how they really did become a close-knit team, and a lot of it had to do with practical jokes that they played on each other and things of that nature. But what really makes this team unique is that 37 years later, the bond is still really strong. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that these guys still live in the metropolitan New York area, and they see each other all the time at events, card shows or giant reunions or, whatever. And if a player is experiencing a problem, the first phone call goes to Harry Carson, who considers himself captain for life of this team. And he basically rallies the troops. And whether a guy needs financial help or he needs emotional support, they get together and they provide that. And I've been around a lot of teams, over 40 years. I covered the league, and I know you've been around a lot of teams also. Championship teams tend to form a bond, but I'd be hard pressed to find that bond is as strong 37 years later as it was when they won the championship together. And that's what makes this Giants team really special.